Today we're going to talk about a Texas doctor getting sued for violating the state's 6-week abortion ban and why that may actually be a good thing, along with the results of the Arizona sham audit. And I interview Senator Amy Klobuchar, one of the authors of the Senate's new voting rights bill that was crafted with Joe Manchin, the Freedom to Vote Act, about what's in the bill and whether Manchin will support filibuster reform so that it could actually get passed. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're listening to No Lie. We're seeing some major moves out of Texas as far as the state's new 6-week abortion ban is concerned. Within days of the law going into effect, a San Antonio physician named Dr. Alan Braid wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post admitting that he'd performed an abortion within the first trimester, but later than 6 weeks. And so he was practically asking to be sued, specifically so that this law could be challenged on the merits. Because remember, the whole reason that this law, SB 8, was allowed to go into effect was because it was specifically written to circumvent judicial review by deputizing ordinary citizens to be the ones to enforce the law. And so, until a lawsuit is brought forward by one of those ordinary citizens, we won't actually get an answer on the merits of the case. But now, a former lawyer from Arkansas, Oscar Stilley, has filed suit against Dr. Braid, ostensibly to collect the $10,000 bounty. And so, on its face, it looked like this would be bad because, look, we're watching a fucking bounty system play out where women and the doctors who care for them are being penalized for exercising a constitutional right. But Stilley actually said in an interview, quote, "I'm not pro-life." And so this isn't really about legitimizing the new law or validating the new law. It's about challenging it. What this does is force the courts to actually litigate the merits of this case. Right now, the practical effect of this law was the chilling effect that it had on abortion providers. Nobody knew if the law would actually stand if it was tried on the merits, but at the same time, who wants to be that guinea pig? Who's got $10,000 to gamble with? And so just the fear, the prospect of getting sued was enough to actually accomplish what this ban set out to accomplish, which was to stop most abortions in the state of Texas. But now, because this former attorney, Stilley, filed suit against Dr. Braid, we'll see the issue litigated. And look, yes, the courts could rule in favor of the merits of the 6-week abortion ban, and that would be devastating. But at the same time, they could also not. And the only way we get there is to actually challenge this thing, especially considering abortions may well have been illegal anyway, considering the chilling effect that this law is having. So really, at this point, we have nothing left to lose and everything to gain by actually getting this law into the courtroom and challenging it. And by the way, with all of that said, let's not also forget that it doesn't have to be this way. Congress could pass the Women's Health Protection Act, which would protect the right to an abortion at a federal level, codifying Roe basically. We literally have enough senators to make this happen, but here's my broken record moment, because a couple of senators have decided that the filibuster, a self-imposed procedural tool, is more important than passing legislation that would instantly protect a woman's right to a safe and legal abortion in the U.S., a law that is desperately and urgently needed. Well, now we're just stuck surrendering that question to some conservative courts. That's what Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are doing. They are choosing the filibuster over a woman's right to choose. They're deferring to a procedural tool purportedly intended to make the Senate see compromise, while simultaneously allowing Republicans to run roughshod over Democrats as they seek absolutely zero compromise. So while the perpetrators of vile laws like this one out of Texas are these far-right theocrats performing for Trump and his base, let's not forget that there are Democrats who are consciously allowing this to happen. When you have the ability to stop something and yet you choose not to, then you are complicit in what's going on. And that's by no means to absolve Republicans of responsibility, but let's not pretend for a second that the Democrats who stand idly by and do nothing are any less guilty. There's still time for these Democratic holdouts to do the right thing and decide whether they want their legacy to reflect the fact that they helped protect a woman's bodily autonomy or allowed Republicans to tear it away. Because you can have one or the other, but not both. Next up, Arizona's sham audit has come to an end, and it turns out that even their results showed that Joe Biden won the state of Arizona. Arizona Republicans literally brought in the cyber ninjas, who are exactly as legitimate as their name sounds, and almost a full year after the election came up with the exact same results that the original election found. Only this time it cost taxpayers $6 million. Breaking news, guys, the winner of the election did indeed win the election. Now, I guess this caveat first, before we dig into what this means and what happens next. This was not a real audit. The results don't do anything to further validate Biden's win because Biden's win was already validated. Regardless of what this so-called audit shows, it changes nothing one way or the other because, again, this was not a real audit and Joe Biden was already the legitimate winner. Now, with that said, There is just something so incredible about an audit that was specifically designed to relitigate an already certified election, still showing that Trump lost. And not only that, lost by a bigger margin than the original results showed. It had Trump getting 261 fewer votes and Joe Biden gaining 99 votes. And like I said, that's not to celebrate these numbers as if there's some vindication for Biden, because, again, this is not a real audit, but that even the sham process that was only created to help Trump just served to embarrass him further, to show that he lost Arizona again, is just so perfectly on par for this entire post-election litigation circus that Republicans insist on embarrassing themselves with. Now, with that said, while I do think that it's funny that they couldn't even leverage this dumpster fire to help themselves, I also want to caution against thinking that this helps Joe Biden or Democrats, because it doesn't. The point here isn't and never was to overturn the election results. It's just not going to happen. The point is to sow doubt in the system. And I do think that for at least some number of people, just the existence of this audit did exactly that. And there's real danger in that. Because now, more people will have lost trust in the system. More people won't trust the results the next time, regardless of what they say. More people will be predisposed to a violent response to unfavorable results like we saw on January 6th. That's what this does. The point wasn't to overturn the election results in 2020. The point was to set the stage to make it easier to do so in 2022 and beyond. And the more that we are mired in audits, regardless of their legitimacy, it'll continue to serve its purpose of undermining trust in elections and attempting to invalidate Biden's presidency. And so it shouldn't surprise you that Trump's first move here in the aftermath of the Arizona audit was to then call on Texas to audit their election results, saying, quote, Texans know voting fraud occurred in some of their counties. And because the entire GOP is petrified of not kowtowing to their deity, Texas's Secretary of State's office did exactly that, like 8 hours later, announcing a full and comprehensive forensic audit in Dallas, Harris, and Tarrant counties, all of which Joe Biden won, of course. And then they threw in Collin County, which Trump won, because that'll make it nonpartisan. Throw a little crumb to the Democrats by also including a county that Trump won, so now it's a legit audit. Right. And so look, the results of this thing don't matter. Not only because the election is already certified and God knows what processes the GOP is going to throw together for this one, but because the whole point of this is expressly not the results. The point is sowing doubt. It is continuing the charade as long as humanly possible in as many states as humanly possible, one by one, until as many people in as many states think that there was something nefarious about the last election. And then they can use that as justification to continue passing these voter suppression bills like the ones they already introduced in 48 states. They'll continue eliminating drop boxes in urban voting centers that allow more people to vote. They'll continue doing away with early voting and weekend voting. They'll continue purging voter rolls. They'll continue closing polling places in majority-minority districts. They'll continue underfunding elections. They'll continue enacting racially and socioeconomically discriminatory voter ID laws. They'll continue gerrymandering Democrats out of government. Don't be fooled into thinking this is actually about relitigating the 2020 election. This is about looking forward to 2022. They're using lies about the last election being rigged to actually rig the next one. And the truth is that it's going to motivate people on the right who buy into these lies to go and vote, and that's the goal. So our job is to match the enthusiasm. That's it. If we let history be our guide here and allow ourselves to become complacent because that's what happens to the party in power during a midterm cycle, then the GOP strategy will be validated. So don't let it. Everyone's got a responsibility to make sure that your circle stays engaged and votes when the time comes. And if you want to help even more, you can also donate to the Don't Be a Mitch Fund, where we've already raised over $500,000 directly for voter registration and voter outreach groups. The link to that fund is in the post description of this video, or you can go to don'tbeamitch.com. And finally, you can keep the pressure on the Senate to pass voting rights legislation, which is a good segue into this week's interview with one of the senators who's helping lead the effort to do exactly that right now, Senator Amy Klobuchar. You can find the link to that video right here on the screen. Just hit the thumbnail or go to the interviews playlist on the homepage of my YouTube channel.